Hello and welcome to our Managing Global Supply Chains group project. In this presentation, we will be discussing the supply chain of Rolex, which has established itself as a global leader in the luxury watch market. We will identify the flaws in the supply chain and subsequently show recommendations of how these can be addressed.
Rolex have 4 manufacturing sites in Switzerland, 3 of which are in Geneva and the 4th in the city of Bienne. The Plan-les-Ouates site brings together all the development and production activities for watch cases and bracelets, from casting of the gold and forming of raw materials to the machining and polishing of finished components. It is home for the foundry where Rolex creates the 18-karat gold alloys used for its watches. While they have a small handful of suppliers that send them steel, Rolex works the vast majority of steel in-house. In 2003, they moved their entire steel production from 316L to 904L steel, which is more rust and corrosion resistant and is harder than other steels. One of the main advantages of the new steel is that when worked properly, it is able to take and hold polishes extremely well. The Bienne site is the production facility for the movement of Rolex watches. The components, often tiny and of complex geometry, are manufactured with a precision of the order of a few microns. This allows 100% of Rolex movements to meet the accuracy criteria of the COSC, who are a third-party quality control organization. The Cherbourg site houses the development and manufacture of the dials, as well as the gemology and gem setting activities. Rolex's world headquarters in SCS is where the final assembly of watches from components delivered by the 3 other sites and final quality control of the finished watches take place. Rolex produce approximately 2,500 units per day, which amounts to roughly 800,000 units per year.
Firstly, looking up the supply chain, as previously mentioned, Rolex have vertically integrated many activities of their supply chain in-house. Areas such as R&D, component production, and raw material development are all conducted in-house. R&D is conducted at the ASIAS site in Geneva, where the scientists work around the clock to find ways to improve their watches and manufacturing process. For example, their state-of-the-art labs are used for developing and researching oils and lubricants that they use in machines during their manufacturing process. Rolex had to replace most of their still working machines and tools to deal with 904L steel because it is more expensive and requires special tools and skills and is overall more difficult to work with. However, it made sense for them due to the amount of watches they produce and because they make all of their parts in-house. Gold is widely used in their range of watches, but instead of outsourcing, Rolex have created a smelting plant at the manufacturing site in Plan-les-Ouates, where they produce their own 18-karat gold pieces. By moving many activities in-house, the company can protect their designs from their competitors and monitor quality along the production chain. In doing so, they are able to improve their quality control, as the majority of components are handmade, meaning quality is of the utmost importance. However, due to the intricacies of the production, it can often take a year to manufacture each unit. In transporting the watches between facilities, Rolex use unmarked armoured vans, with the products then being stored in their on-site safes, which is said to have security which rivals that of Fort Knox. Looking downstream, unlike many global businesses, Rolex don't have a regional distribution centre located near their various markets. Instead, the company have established a centralised distribution strategy in which finished watches are sent from the global headquarters in ASIAS to authorised dealers in the various locations around the globe. The Far East has emerged as the biggest market for Rolex. However, due to the manufacturing process and great geographical distance from Switzerland, the retailers may experience a long lead time, which also leaves Rolex quite unresponsive to changes in consumer trends, such as new demand for smartwatches. Moreover, currently, the company does not have an online presence similar to other luxury brands, as the customers can only look at products but are redirected to local authorized dealers or flagship stores to complete their purchases.
With most businesses, effective inventory, warehouse and distribution management is vital for everyday success. It is important for keeping inventory numbers stable. as if you have too much stock, it will be difficult to store and can also result in increased security risk. However, not having enough stock means you run the risk of losing sales. Essentially, you need inventory management to control the levels of stock needed for optimal profit. You also need a big enough warehouse to hold your stock, as well as a good distribution system so you are able to get your product to your customer. Rolex manufacture roughly 2,500 watches per day. This is all done in-house in Rolex's base in Geneva, Switzerland. Due to the amount they make and the size of watches, Rolex don't have to invest in large warehouses. However, due to the cost of each product, Rolex would have to invest a large amount of money to ensure stock is safely stored, protected, and insured. According to the Federation of the Swiss Watch Industry, 40 million fake watches are produced each year, compared to just 30 million genuine watches. Also, the quality and design of counterfeit watches has improved. Moreover, with the growing importance of online sales, the distribution of fake watches has become easier, as they can be distributed anonymously. However, to ensure Rolex's watches cannot be imitated easily, Rolex invests a substantial amount of money into processes and techniques that are tightly held trade secrets. A factor in Rolex's success is the fact that the tools are very specific, and knowledge of the process in which they produce the watches is hard to copy. Moreover, making everything in-house allows Rolex to be truly independent and has allowed the organization to create a solid distribution infrastructure. Rolex and its subsidiary manufacture, distribute, and service the watches sold under the Rolex and Tudor brands. All materials are sourced in Geneva, and Rolex has had its own department to produce its gold for the watches. Managing all materials in-house has allowed Rolex to maintain a higher level of control over their materials and has reduced costs as everything is locally sourced.
The structure of Rolex's supply chain presents certain issues that hinder its performance. These issues are primarily attributed to the rigidity of its supply chain. As mentioned, the process to become an authorized dealer, heavy investment in manufacturing infrastructure, and the 1-year manufacturing lead time all make this a very rigid and inflexible supply chain. This rigidity means that it is less responsive to market changes, an example being rising demand in the Far East due to a growing upper class, thus increasing demand for their product. Investment in manufacturing infrastructure means that they are not able to adapt their products easily. An example being changing the type of steel used in their products meant having to change all the machinery, coming at a high cost and negative impact to productivity. This would have been easier to change if they had outsourced the process rather than do it in-house. It is extremely difficult to become an authorized dealer. This means that they are scarcely available in certain areas. The scarcity of authorized dealers for Rolex products leaves them liable to competitors in certain areas who are more easily able to operate in those areas, enter the market, and thus take over potential market share from Rolex. Online watch shops have become more prominent recently as opposed to shopping in person as Rolex do. The Rolex way is offering a service to go along with the purchase of physical product. This goes against current market characteristics. Rolex do not currently have an online shopping service. Rather, customers are redirected to their nearest authorized dealer. This is the final step in the supply chain. This means that they miss out on all potential online customers who are more likely to choose one of their competitors who do offer an online service. The headquarters for Rolex are solely based in Geneva, which means that they are a long distance away from their potential clients in the Far East. This means that they are not responsive to changes in consumer preferences and market demand as a company with localized headquarters would be. This in turn means that their supply chain is not as responsive as it could be. All of these issues combined means that it's difficult for Rolex to implement new products in their range. This means that they are missing out on attracting potential new clients and customers in certain segments who seek the newest and most fashionable products, especially in the luxury segment.
From the list of issues we have identified, we have devised a few recommendations that Rolex could implement to improve their supply chain management. If Rolex incorporated outsourcing materials from less costly foreign markets, they'd be able to develop cheaper supply chains. This would mean that they would be able to charge less for their products, which in turn would make their products more affordable, reducing the demand of counterfeits as consumers could afford the real thing.
A more streamlined online service offered by Rolex would mean that the supply chain would have better potential consumer outreach, as opposed to the current process where potential customers are directed to their nearest local dealer. Better online capabilities would mean that they would be able to attract a more diverse clientele from a greater variety of geographic regions. A streamlined authorised dealer process would mean that they'd be able to establish presence in new markets more easily and be more responsive to localised changes, with the implementation of local headquarters as well as a quicker establishment of authorised dealers. Thank you for listening. Please post potential questions in the comments below.